Would you prefer to keep playing instead of having this break right now?
No, I don't think so. Even though we ended that game well, like the style that we played and how we finished, at the same time, this was critical for us to get guys back. And even though there may not be a number of guys that are out not playing, there are some of those we hope to get back, but also some guys maybe are playing 80-90%. We can get them fully healthy, and then also give us a chance to work with some of our backups and clean some things up.
Because this was one of the things you talked about early on, and that is strengthening your backups.
Yeah, it is. It's something we've continued to try to do every week. This gives us a little more time to focus on them in all three phases of the game, and it's going to be critical down the stretch because, as we know, injuries are going to happen. We're going to need those guys.
Do you feel kind of fortunate to get four teams in a row like this, so you can kind of help you get the younger guys prepared?
Well, I don't really consider these guys 3-4. The last 2 weeks, I think we're more. These guys really base a lot more out of 4-3, but they do some, and so it is good to have some background in it as you go to play these guys.
How important is this week for you guys in terms of recruiting? Will you have coaches out on the road?
Yeah, a number of our guys are not here right now. We want to make sure that we're continuing to maintain the level we've been recruiting at, and that nationally players understand the importance of our future. So guys are in and out, and they'll be back. A lot of guys left Sunday, and then we'll be back tomorrow.
Do you notice any difference in terms of feedback you get from kids when you're in seat, like when you're able to do this while you guys are playing, as opposed to the off season when there's no games going on?
Well, yeah, I think that the kids really like when they see us, especially if it's around the country. That we're out and we're about, and we've gotten a lot of attention this season, and great feedback from kids. From on-field success and with Matt and TJ coming back, all the stuff we've talked about before.
Will you update the status of Brian Bauckham?
Yeah, legally I can't get into that. On the situation. Unfortunately, I can't.
If defenses continue to change in ISO, Robert and Marquise, what can you guys do? Is there a way you can change things yourself to help free them up?
Yeah, I don't really look at it that way of changing things because I look at it as if they're going to do that, we need to run the ball. And so, last week if you run the ball for 300 yards, you're going to win a lot of games. And so we understand that, the players, Matt understands that, the receivers understand that. If they're going to do what we've seen this year and guys come in and play completely different defenses than they've put on film before, just for these two receivers, and then we're not going to be ignorant and just keep trying to throw to them into double coverage. And so you saw what happened in the last game. 7.5 yards a carry, and we'll win a lot of games that way.
They're just so talented. It just almost. I guess it's good to be a decoy, or.
Yeah, I don't really see it as a decoy. I see it as a respect. Those two kids have gotten a lot of respect from defensive staffs. To implement a new system to stop them. So they understand it, and I think if we do run the ball like that, eventually, I think that people will change and go back.
Up to this point in the season, what pleases you the most, and conversely, what has disappointed you the most in the team?
I think our defensive line, in general, they played really well for a lot of newcomers that hadn't played before, and I like how few explosive plays we're giving up on defense. We're making people work the length of the field and letting them screw up. Our first 2 years here, we gave up an unbelievable amount of explosive plays, and our secondary and our whole defense is doing a much better job with that. I would say disappointment would be prior to the last game, our run game, and when we need to be able to dominate people up front, and we were able to do that last week, so hopefully we can continue that.
What is your overall assessment of Matt Barkley's performance this season?
I think Matt's played really well for the most part. As we all know, didn't play very well in Stanford. We didn't play well around him. And other than that, I think he's played really well. He's had some bad breaks too, which happens. This is why sometimes stats are a little bit misleading. For instance, his last interception in the last game. So I think he's done really well. And I think if defenses go back to playing, those numbers will come back. If defenses play us normal, but if they're going to play us the way they are, we're not going to have those huge. He's not going to have those huge numbers, that we've seen before.
Is his patience being tested by the way that they're playing you guys?
Yeah, it is being tested, and you're seeing him do a great job with it. You're not seeing balls thrown downfield, forced into coverages. For instance, Saturday, that could have been one of those games that he's frustrated because the numbers aren't there, and he's done a great job not giving into that.
Jabari Ruffin said that you're doing some different things with him. Could you talk about what you're doing with him and what the thought process was behind that?
Yeah, we've Jabari most likely will redshirt for us, and we're just looking at some things with him up front, and some pass rush stuff for next year because he's so talented.
How about what's DJ Morgan's situation? He had that surgery a few weeks ago. Where's he at?
Yeah, we hope to have DJ back this week that he's playing for us.
Lane, 2 weeks in a row now, Nelson Aguilar's been more involved in the offense. How are you feeling about his progress so far, and where does he compare to what Robert and Marquise were their freshman years at this point in the season?
Yeah, we're very excited about Nelson, what he's done for us on special teams and on offense. He has not had as many opportunities as those two guys have had, because when those guys were here, they didn't have two premier guys in front of them. But I think Nelson would be having those type of seasons, if he had more opportunities, and he's going to be a really special player for us.
Is there a concern, Coach, you may have getting back into the rhythm, getting back into the flow after being off for so long?
Well, I think we'll manage that. When we get back to the in-week practices, they'll be very physical again, just like a normal week, and so we'll get our guys back on schedule.
Talk about how well Abe Markowitz played the other day. Would you like to keep him in the starting lineup?
I don't know that yet. I know that we'd like to keep him playing, and so regardless of who's starting or who's up, who's down that week, he's going to play.
Lane, you said Sunday night that you're not as focused on stats this year and changing in the offseason. Was that something you discussed with your team at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, not really more of those select guys, the two backs, the two receivers, and the quarterback, to make sure that they understood, we're about winning, and we're going to do things to make sure that we're winning games and that we're not worried about somebody's individual stats. And they're very unselfish kids, all those guys, and they've done a great job. You've seen it from whether it's Curtis touching the ball 5 times in the first game to Robert only touching the ball, I think, 4 times or 5 times, last Saturday. It's going to happen, and we're not going to force things just to get people numbers. We're going to do the best thing to win, which I think was evident by how much we ran the ball, especially in the second half last week.
Silas
Do
Red
one
came
last
over,
question. You got 2 minutes on the clock.
Silas came over late. How do you think he's picked up the offense? How do you think he's performed?
Well, I think what we're seeing is Silas continue to improve and had his best game by far Saturday. Here's a guy who got here 2 days before training camp started, so I think he's done a great job. But I think what we're seeing is he continued to improve and how bright his future is going to be here.